So we are going to start from the line that begins with the word Hashem Elokei Yisrael Min Ha'olam V'ad Ha'olam. Alright, I think it's approximately when we started this morning. 10 lines from the proper approximately. And the Rebbe says Min Ha'olam V'ad Ha'olam. What is from world to world? This is from world Almudi Iskasya to world Almudi Isgali. Okay, go ahead. Yeah, Baruch.
Yeah, so Kiva and I were speaking a few days ago and trying to understand how we got to this question, this discussion, from where the mimer was speaking about Kodesh and Baruch, as far as the Yidden and the angels.
All right.
And I missed, if there was a transition here, I missed it.
There was a transition, but you have to, what you call, keep the thinking cap on. We're trying to explain the meaning from bracha. That bracha is not changing anything. It is just allowing that which is contained in a certain thing, contained in its source, contained in its essence, to come through unobstructed. This is what bracha is.
And the reason we're trying to explain it is that that's the thing that the malachim have, that the Yidden have a lesser degree, or something like
right.
that.
There is Baruch, and there is Baruch and Kodesh. Malachim say Baruch, and the Yidden say Baruch. What is the principle of bracha?
Okay, that's how we got to this.
Yeah.
Okay, and then that took us into this discussion of Olam Iskasya Liskalia.
Yeah, that's Baruch Hashem Elokei Yisrael. Baruch Hashem. That's in from bracha. Min Ha'olam V'ad Ha'olam. That means that bracha consists in bringing something down from Ayin Iskasya in Ayin Isgali.
Okay, good. Okay, that's a very useful synopsis.
Right. One important point in this synopsis that I emphasized several times, and you may have missed, and the Rebbe says so interestingly, so subtly, but clearly states that Ayin from bracha is not to disrupt Seder Hishtalshelus, to bypass Seder Hishtalshelus. On the contrary, it is to open up the gateways so that the Hamshocha comes from its source without disrupting Seder Hishtalshelus. It will be perfectly natural, the way it should be. There is an obstruction, whatever that obstruction is, and we're not trying to bypass the Seder Hishtalshelus. We want it to be in Hishtalshelus. Like what you were saying, if it comes down, it should make sense. Like when we say oil in Seder Hishtalshelus burns. It makes sense. Whatever the sense is, it's something that you expect it to burn. Water to burn is not something which fits in Seder Hishtalshelus. Therefore, that disrupts Seder Hishtalshelus. That's a completely new definition of water and oil.
So when the Rebbe gives...
But then you have a bracha is to be mamshich from the source without disrupting Seder Hishtalshelus. It should go right in and flow right in. And this is what the Rebbe's question was. again, I'm so mispoken from the way the Rebbe presents it. It's locked.
Yeah, I like it.
Huh?
Then by the chaymitz burning, he said that in such a way that even with sad or in sof, chaymitz could within the seder yishtashlus, chaymitz could burn.
The Indian from that Ayin Sof, there the Rebbe, then the point is not in the question of yeah. And Chaymitz burning is a complete disruption of Seder Shtas.
I just left it there.
Yeah, you put out the knob, otherwise it's going to clock again. You know
It should stay open.
Yeah, it should be open a little bit. That's all.
Because we had said that the way that it comes in is through the point in particular the change in the tzurufim. So now that after that change, but the new way that it's drawn down is now sort of making sense. I think you're saying that it changed the tzurufim.
This is what the Rebbe says. Mitzad oirin seif. Meaning to say like this. Mitzad human perspective. If you see vinegar burn, it disrupts your whole perspective, perception of world. Oirin seif has a much deeper, broader perspective. It could see the tzirufim are burning in chaymatz and the water. It is an unlimited view of things. So the Ayin Sof, it could be real right into Seder Ishtalshus that it should burn. This is what the Rebbe's question is. Why didn't Yankel change the yonim from the prime of Menashe? He put it through a bracha, and he says no to a bracha. That's not the function of bracha. The function of a tefillah is that, and a bracha is not. And Mechanim and Beis said, "Let vinegar burn." He says, "V'yoyma." What means v'yoyma? We emphasize there will be a new creation.
So that's not the union of Mamshich HaBracha.
That's not the bracha.
This is like the union of Tefillah.
Right.
So when the Rebbe gives a bracha to a childless couple, who everybody says is not capable of having a child, and they have a child, is that a bracha or is this something else?
No, it is a bracha, because what they're saying is from a Gashmish perspective. And the Rebbe is saying that in their shoydish, they are due to have a child.
So this is still the union of being mamshich what's there.
Right.
What was your point about the tzurufim, that after happened to tzurufim? And what was again your point about changing that after that the chometz burning was through changing tzurufim? Wasn't that some? So
It's a new creation.
a new creation, but
It's
somehow
not a
it
bracha.
comes-
It's not a form of a bracha.
But now it's a new creation, but now it's drawn down into Ishtalshus, but something new.
Yeah.
Okay. It's
Chometz burn is a new type of chometz.
So when we say Yehi Ratzain, a Yehi Ratzain is not the union of bracha.
No. The rotze is a mamshech and rotze chodesh. All right. All right. So bracha is min ha'olam adu ha'olam, which means this is world and this is world, and therefore there is some kind of a parallel between them, similarity. And this is a higher world. This is Amad Iskashi, Amad Isgali. Draw it from Amad Iskashi and Amad Isgali, and this is what Rebbe is going to explain now. What is Amad Iskashi and Amad Isgali? The protos Oilim, can we go on now? The protos Oilim is specifically in the specific identity of worlds. Hein Bria v'Yitzira. These two worlds is called Bria and Yitzira. Kinoida. Kinoida the Oilam HaBria Nikro Amadis Kasio v'Yitzira Amadis Galia. This is just an appellation. The reference of Abriya is Amadis Kasio, Amadis Galia. We're going to discuss now the principle behind it. Ukmesha Kosu, and as the Apostle said, Yoitzir Oir Uvoy Rechoshech. Yoitzir means what he designs. Yoitzir is also Tzura. Oir has a Tzura. This is where the Amadi Yitzira, Elam HaYitzira, Amadi is Galia. Boy Rechoshech, Choshech, which is Amadis Kasio, and that's called Bria. Al derech Moshe, which can be understood from the following Moshe. Machshavah v'dibur, thought and speech are representative within the human being of these two worlds, Bria and Yitzira. The machshavah hu behelem, where machshavah is in a concealed, in a subtle state. What does it mean? Machshavah is behelem. The kasher yachshev odom dvar sechel, that when a person would think, consider a dvar sechel, some kind of a sechel process, afilo yitroid boy, even if it should be deeply engaged in it and completely drawn and grasped by it, leyedu mahu choshech. They, meaning the outside, other people will not know what he thinks, what he is thinking. Rak yoidim, they can only know shechoishev eizer dover. They can only know that he thinks something. But what he thinks is not possible for them to know. Why is it not possible for them to know what he thinks? I know, and that is lefi she'oisies hamachshava hoen oisies dakim ruchni, because that the oisies of machshava are very fine and spiritual letters, oisies she'eino murgoshim al hazulos, that cannot be felt to the outside. There are going to be a lot of very fine inferences over here. The way we perceive oisis hamachshava, and that we cannot see what the person thinks, we would not instinctively say that the reason he cannot perceive what he thinks is because he's just concealing it. His eyes doesn't let you know. So how do you know? How can you know what he's thinking? It's like having a whole thing in the house, and nobody can see what's in the house, because there's walls around it and you can't see. So in order to gain access to this motion of Oisi is a machshavah, and Oisi is a dibur. It is true that dibur makes a noise, and machshavah is silent, does not make a noise. But this is not the only difference. Dibur does not merely make a noise. There are other expressions that we can say, oh, it makes a noise, like a person exclaims, very excited, or even sings, screams out. You know that he is doing something because he's making a noise. Dibur is not merely making a noise. Dibur consists of expressing in letters. What are these letters for? These letters let us go back to a simpler level, like we always speak about, and Yonason has eternalized it by the picture of the table. A table is a table, but a table is not a table. A table has oisius. It has a board, it has legs, and this board and these legs, they tell you that this is a table. This is the concept of oisius. Oisius, table is a simple human concept. But in order to bring it down into the world, Amodi is Galia, you have to fully define it. That it should exist as an independent entity in the world. And if you do not define it as a fully entity in the world, it may make perfect sense to you. There's no way you can explain to somebody else what a table is. Oisius, in other words, are those means by which you bring a concept or whatever it is into and generalize an absolute presence in the world, like the board, the legs. Even if you didn't know what this is about, you would see that there is something there, some structure. Once you see a structure, so then somebody can come and say to you, know what this structure is about? Look, here's how you use it. In other words, you have to start, Oisius, begin milmato l'maylo. Oisius hadibur. That's where you're full of mishali. Because first I have to engage you in the level that you're aware of. Otherwise I'll be talking in thin air. This is what Oisius are. Which Oisius? The Oisius of Almod is Galia. Because in Almod is Galia, you don't know what I'm thinking. You know what exists in your world. And I have to bring the thought down into your world, so you could see it in your world, as an existence in your world, not in my world, but in your world. And then from that you can draw and understand what this is about. This is the communication basic of speech. And this is what Oisius hadibur. That's why in the Zohar you all know that Oisius are called avonim. Avonim means stones. What is the principle of stone? It exists in the world, physical world without any significance. It doesn't have a message of its own. And if it had a message of its own, then it would interfere with the message that with what you're trying to use it for. Imagine the leg of the table decides, oh, I want to take a dance. It would not be a table. The leg would observe you dancing and says, I also want to dance. Forget it. Essentially, I said, you're making noise, but you're making noise in a very formalized manner that you're describing what you're thinking. That describes what you're thinking. Ois is a machshavah. Now go back to Ois and machshavah. It says Ois and machshavah are not felt, not because they're internal to your mind, but because they're too fine to be felt outside. What is that? This is counterintuitive to us. What is this? Ois is a machshavah. You have to understand that machshavah, as I said this morning and yesterday, machshavah, the difficult thing for us to understand that machshavah is also a world. Why is it difficult? Sorry, because machshavah is internal to the person. It has access. It senses the truth of the nefesh itself.
What do you mean when you say it's difficult?
Difficult what?
Machshavah is difficult?
No, it's difficult to understand how machshavah is called a world.
Uh-huh.
The world means a creation, an external creation is created in some kind of a platform. Machshavah, you think what you feel. It seems to us.
You think what you
feel. It's not like dibur that you're speaking the oisius, and through the oisius you have the sechel.
I already had one. If I have another one, I'm not going to bed tonight.
You will.
I'm just exhausted. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I could see. Yeah.
I'm there. I'm here. Hashem.
All right. It pains me to do this.
I'm sorry. I have to make you do it. I'll stand in a minute. It's l'mayla l'mata, basically.
Machshavah is milmayla l'mata. Not only it's milmayla l'mata. In Dibur, we sense that we're saying words, but in the words there is a content. The machshavah is just the opposite. We're not even aware that we're thinking with words. If you tell someone, you're thinking with words, with the language, it'll be kind of shocking at first. Whereas the truth is, yes, you're thinking with words. Why are you thinking with words? Because in fact, the meaning of machshavah is to reveal the sechel, the midah. Sechel and midah is a koyach hanefesh. It's a neshama thing. It's not a group thing. Again, I want to remind you what we speak about sechel. Sechel is not this instinctive reaction to some kind of encounter in the world. Sechel is really a concept that exists only on the neshama level. Like you point out, chokhmah and bina. It's a completely different element. And the simple illustration is 1 and 1 is 2. And as I said many times, I defy anyone to explain what is 2. Come on, Paltiel, come on, this is so simple. Yes, Adar. Explain what's 2. Two ones, yes. But what is 2? It's a living neshama. And knowing a living human being can relate to that concept. Can you imagine such a simple thing? Machshavah, this is what machshavah thinks about. This is what is mislavish in machshavah. Pure sechel, this is not a high madriga of sechel, this is a very simple sechel. But if it is sechel, it's a koyach ha-nefesh. Koyach ha-nefesh is a koyach ha-nefesh. It belongs in the nefesh, it doesn't belong to anything else. It exists only where the nefesh is. Yet, this koyach ha-nefesh comes down at the level where it is known at the machshavah level. And to be known machshavah level, it has to be contained in oisiyos. These oisiyos do not make it part and parcel of the machshavah, do not make it exist like 2 ones. It doesn't, because it remains a neshama concept. But it makes it known to the machshavah.
To the group, to the brain, to the machshavah also.
It makes it known. So that we can think into it, in the concept. Without the oisiyos, you would not know it. Not even know this concept of 2. The oisiyos makes it possible to know. But these oisiyos, they must not interfere with the principle of the concept. In other words, if the oisiyos are such that make it part of the mitzvahs of the world, like 2 ones, then you're losing the whole concept. And the sechel. The ruchnis of the thought, of the idea, of the sechel. And this is why you cannot know what the person is thinking. Yes, he's thinking with oisiyos. These oisiyos are not a presence in the world.
They're connected to the source.
They are the source. They are bringing the source that you could think about it. But you don't really have it. You can't grasp it. It's not a real mitzvah. It remains in the neshama. In sechel you can grasp it. But that's sechel. That's not gashmi. That's not machshavah. Machshavah is only a levush to the sechel. It's not sechel. Right? This is what the Rebbe said. And this is what's called Amudis Kashi. Okay, so now we have identified these two terms. Alma, it's a world. It's not the way it is in the nefesh itself. It's actually identifying a structure. Two. One on one is two. It's a world. But the world is Amudis Kashi. It's a world that stays concealed because it stays within, it exists only within its source, within the sechel, within the ruchnis, if you will. The famous saying, I've been mentioned many times, you've learned it, a Kopf kann nicht aufstellen. Why can't you? Why not? You're explaining it. Can't you show somebody with a table? It's very easy. 1 on 1, 2 once. It's right there. Count it over. But he doesn't have the sechel. He has only the levush. This is what happened in our world. That the levush substituted for the sechel. And that we call sechel.
But there, even the dibor is not. In other words, we say that the dibor is just the lavush.
Dibor for sure.
Yeah. But it's not why. So why is that called Amadis Galia? I mean, in other words, it's still conveying the sechel, which is not something that is built from the bottom.
This Galia means it is known outside. It is also known through the levush, but it's known. All right, let's continue on. So machshavah is called choshech, and dibur is called oyer. Just as we would imagine choshech and oyer. Choshech is that you are in a room, and all you know is that there is space over here. We have no idea what this space is occupied with. Or you know what populates the space. See, there's much to speak about this, but I think this is sufficient for the moment. Okay.
Why is dibor not still also connected to the dibor? The machshavah is very much connected to the source. The dibor is also conveying a sechel which is connected to the source. But the dibor itself is what's...
The dibur, the sechel is drawn from the source. Machshavah, the sechel is connected to the source. You think of it the way you see it in its source. Dibur, you say it the way it expresses itself.
Can you guys lean back, like, so you're not blocking everything?
Okay, yeah. Good. All right. V'hainu, okay, I'm starting from V'hainu, if you notice. The line begins from the word yoidim. The reason we don't know what a person thinks about, even though it's in oisiyos, in words, lefi she'oisiyos ha-machshavah he'noisiyos dakim v'ruchni. The oisiyos ha-machshavah are very fine, and ruchni zike oisiyos. She'ena murgoshim al hazuz, that cannot be sensed by an outsider. V'gam, and then also or hanefesh k'moy hasechel v'hamidos, the oil of the nefesh, such as the sechel and the midos, meyirin b'machshavah begilui. This oil hanefesh, the sechel and midos shine in machshavah in full glory, begilui. The oifel, in a manner, okay, this is where we're going to try to dig in a little bit. The oifel in a manner, she'iyefsher adayin, that it would still not be possible lihizgalos el hazulus. It's not possible yet that this sechel and midas, oil sechel and midas, should be nizgal el hazulus, should reveal itself to someone else, el hazulus. Because the oil ha-sechel midas is me'inin begilui. I'll try to present this based on the fact that we have discussed principles of this many times. We spoke just today or yesterday on the principle that there are two ways to know something. One is by encounter, by discovery, and the other is by being presented. What is the difference between these two? I'd like you to think into this. When you encounter something, you encounter a table. You encounter the table because there is that gashmizik mitzias, not because it belongs here. It's in the dark. You don't see that it belongs here. Who knows, maybe this is just a dump and there's a table standing in the dump. Encountering the table doesn't tell you that this is a dining room and the table belongs here. The principle of sechel is not just to identify an item. It's to identify the significance, the truth behind it, the meaning behind it. That's sechel. Where does the nefesh get sechel from? All of a sudden we have a koyach sechel. What is this koyach about? Please understand, this koyach is representative of the truth of the nefesh. Because nefesh is truth. Truth means that everything that exists, that it can only relate to that which should exist, which makes sense to exist. This is why the nefesh says, Yesh b'labayis l'birusu. Is there a balabayis here? Why all of a sudden balabayis? You see the biro, take it for what it is. Everyone knows what I'm referring to? Yeah? Hello? I know you know. Everybody knows what I'm referring to. Avraham Avinu, the mother said Avraham Avinu was walking around among the idol worshippers, and he was trying to understand the world he's in. And his question was, Yesh Bal Habayis L'Birazu, is there a Bal Habayis, is there an owner, a boss, a leader in this edifice? Why is he asking Yesh Bal Habayis L'Birazu? Do you see the Bal Habayis? You don't see him, so what makes you say that there is a Bal Habayis? There's a biro, take it for what it is. So the answer is, as we pointed out, because when you observe the biro with your living nefesh, with your sechel, then you see that this biro is not merely a presence. But you see a table, and the table consists of a board with 4 legs. You know it's not that legs and a board. There's something more real to it.
His question is already an answer.
What?
His question is already an answer.
Yes, yeah. The question is first question from his nefesh. He sees there is something true over here. Doesn't have to say Bal Habayis. He says the Bal Habayis is expressed in the biro.
So what is his question really? Where is the Bal Habayis? Not is there one? He's kind of.
Well, however that is, we can be. I don't want to deviate.
Uh-huh.
So this is sechel. And where does sechel come from? Because in nefesh ha'odom is inherently a godly truth. In other words, it does not really merely accept a mitzias. Something is here. It immediately sees through and through. It says there's some kind of message, some truth. There's a reason why this is here. All the various illustrations that we used lately fall into this category. A person walks on the street, he doesn't walk on the street in isolation, he walks on the street that's on the earth. Because how can there cannot be a street in isolation. It has to be a real thing that presents it. A person doesn't go fishing because there's fish. Goes fishing because the yam is made for that. Remember that thing we have been distinguished between how that chaya was fishing and how human being fishes. It's completely different perception. This is sechel. This sechel is not only rooted, but it's representative of a nefesh of truth. And this is what we're saying all the time, and I'm going to repeat it again, please remember this. A human being is not a living body like the animal is. A living body does not know anything but what the body tells it. And the body says, there's a beer over here. I don't see Bal Habayis. There's food over here, and that's all there is. A human being is life in a body. Life is a real presence. It's truth. And that is a completely different perspective. So this sechel is Oyer HaNefesh. Oyer HaNefesh. This is literally a light, a spark from the Nefesh. It's a living spark. If not for the Nefesh, there would be no sechel. And this is what the world has come to view the world, and has managed to ignore and to alleviate the effect of the nefesh. There is no nefesh, there is only the gashmis.
What is the overall point that you want us to understand from this?
That this sechel, even though it's mislabish in noisiyos, it remains a nefesh aspect. It does not become part and parcel of the yoyos. This is why you cannot see it on the outside. You can only see it where there's a nefesh is. A nefesh cannot be seen outside. And then he says, because the oil ha-nefesh is meir begilu in a very great purity in sechel and midas, in machshavah. And therefore, the oisiyos are totally lost, so to speak.
The worldly element.
The Oishis is the gashmis, is the main means by which the goof can know it. So yes, the goof can know it, but the goof does not grasp it. It remains sechel. It remains sechel. Can you imagine, like I mentioned before, the goof knows, everybody knows that 1 and 1 is 2. We know something that we cannot explain. That's a phenomenal experience, if you think about it.
You know, when you know something in thought, and it gets clearer and clearer and clearer as you're learning and thinking it over.
Mm-hmm.
What is that? That's more oisies of the...
Yes. Yes, it's more different approaches and different means by which you can relate to it, but you do not, and you should not even try to alleviate the oyer. The whole point is to reveal the oyer, the sechel.
What do you mean, alleviate the oyer?
Alleviate the oyer is very simple, as we say. 1 and 1 is 2 ones. I don't need to know that it's 2. From my goof perspective, I don't need to know. How much money do you owe me? 1 and 1. 2 ones, that's all I'm interested in.
That would be dislocating it from the source.
That would be dislocating the concept from the source. All right, let's go. So I'm calling your attention again. The gam oil ha-nefesh, and then also the oil ha-nefesh. K'moi ha-sechel ve-ha-midas, such as the sechel and the midas. Why do they say oil ha-sechel and midas? Because we would miss the point. Sechel is oil ha-nefesh, coming in the form of sechel in sechel and midas. It is not correct to say, my sechel understands. It's correct to say that I understand. Or my midas feel. No, it is I who feels. Because I have a living nefesh and I'm alive. And the nefesh gives me life, and that's why I feel it. That's why I understand it. And this is why I'm always coming back to this, to alleviate any kind of treatments, any kind of difficulties. This is why there is this opposite view. Say, this is not really knowledge. This is not, they haven't proven anything. This is imagination. This is not knowledge. You can demonstrate it's not knowledge. What is two? And we say, yes, this is the true knowledge. And two once is not knowledge at all. Two once is not sechel at all. It's called it's called instinct. Even a behemoth has that knowledge. Okay? You're blocking again. Okay. Okay, so shine the machshavah begiloi in full glory. Not in some kind of a background, but directly. In machshavah you actually sense the truth of this Ohr HaNefesh. The oifon, in a sense, in a manner, is that this Ohr HaSeichel, it's impossible to be expressed to the Zulas, because it's literally a bright light of the Nefesh. You can't present it to the Zulas.
The Zulas?
Zulas means someone else. Why can it not be presented to the Zulas? Because the Nefesh is shining. Nefesh you can't give away. You can give a concept of sechel, but Nefesh is Nefesh. Okay. Just want to, because we're living in this world, I mentioned many times, there is a concept in the world to be intellectually honest. What does intellectually honest mean? What does that term mean? It means that to approach an understanding of sechel without sechel, I know it only because it was proven to me. This is a horror story. It's not intellectual, it's not honest, it's horror. Which is why I'm always urging, you approach something, you have to approach it. I want to understand. I want to know, not prove it to me. How does it work? No, you have to dig into yourself. Find your own sechel. Without your own sechel, you will never understand it. And that is, in the world, calls intellectual dishonesty. You understand because you want to understand. And we say, no, that's the way to understand. Only a living human being can understand sechel. And you can only understand if you want to understand. Rotzen is the basis for sechel.
This wanting to understand is not sharing the light of sechel.
I'm sorry?
This wanting to understand is not sharing. You said there's a bright light of sechel that cannot be shared. On the other hand, it seems like there's a common sharing of wanting to. Otherwise, that's the basis for all dibur, is the machshavah that's really common.
You can. That's right. You can have in dibur, but you cannot share the life element.
I didn't get what he's saying, but what he's saying. So can you repeat the question?
It would seem that would seem that machshavah should be or could be shared, like there's this common wanting to know or to, not based on what can be proven externally.
Wanting to understand is an individual's contribution. You cannot give him your want to understand.
The wanting to understand is wanting to experience your own nefesh. Right?
I don't like that terminology. Wanting to understand means I want to know the truth.
But it's alone. It's one's own. I understand where the sharing comes from.
Abraham, I said, get off that. What does one's own have to do with it? In other words, you're staying within your boundaries,
No.
so what's the point?
We said that the sechel. We said that the sechel reveals the living nefesh. And we said that you
Fine. Yeah, there's a roll over there.
we said
Mm.
we said that the sechel reveals the living nefesh. We said that because the Ora nefesh shines through sechel and midas, we can't share it with somebody else because the nefesh you cannot share it. It cannot go where it's not. It only could be where it is. So when you want to understand, it means that you want to reach into the nefesh, which cannot go out where it's not. So therefore I don't understand where the concept of sharing comes from.
You mean to say, why would I want to explain to you a sechel?
No, Adar, I want very much, but in order for but if I want to understand something, it means that I want to. It means that I have to go and be in touch, get in touch with the nefesh. I can't do simultaneously understanding something and explaining it to you.
No. Abraham, I know where you're coming from. The nefesh is always shining. You cannot not be in touch, be in this touch than after nefesh.
I don't think I meant that. I don't know.
I don't know what you mean.
What are you? I mean, I guess.
You're not trying to go back to your nefesh. You're trying to understand what the nefesh is telling you.
Mm-hmm.
Fine. So what has how it could be combined with sharing with someone else?
When you put it into oisis.
Oh, right. So afterwards.
Yeah.
That's all. So, I mean,
That's what I'm saying. When the oil hanefesh is bright, you cannot express it in zulas.
So I didn't understand what Yonah was saying. He was saying that it's seemingly synonymous with. Everybody wants to understand, so therefore you should be able to share it. But it cannot happen simultaneously. You first have to put it in oises. In oises adibut.
That's what I'm saying. Not everyone wants to understand.
Okay. Okay.
It's not a question that you always are aroused once and you say, no, prove it to me. That's what I'm saying. This is a very prevalent problem. You have to come to understanding with your full chayes. As a matter of fact, when I come to learn, I want to know what you understand, not what I understand. That's learning. All right, let's continue. The point over here, when the Rebbe says, "Oil hanefesh me'asich ha'mitzvah miyirim begili be'efen sheyevshe adayin lisgalus al hazulas," is not to say that this is oil hanefesh, not oil hasechel, and that's why you cannot be separated from him. That's not the point. The point is oil hasechel and oil hanefesh, that's one and the same thing. Point is that it's just too bright to be able to be expressed to azulas. This is also the reason why the oises are ruchniim. Why the oises ruchniim? Because the oil is ruchni, is in nefesh. If you want to capture want to relate to the oil, you would relate to it in a very fine manner. And if the oises become coarse, you lose the oil. Our time is sort of up, right? What is the time?
Yeah.
Okay. Just want to say one thing. Just as we're saying over here, the oil hanefesh, like the sechel and midas. Sechel and midas are koiches hanefesh. But they exist only where there is oil hanefesh. It is the oil hanefesh in a reduced level that's called a koyach. So what's the point of saying that Tzor HaNefesh? Say it's Tzor HaSeichel. The point is this. The whole concept of Oyer HaSeichel and Oyer, what is Oyer? We spoke about many times. Oyer is not a presence of its own. Oil is always connected to the moya, to the source. It's not an entity, a presence. This is why sechel. What makes sechel? What makes you understand? Oh yeah, it makes sense to me. Doesn't really make sense. You can't really grasp it. You can't really prove it to anybody. What makes you understand it? What makes you understand it is because the nefesh tells you, yes, it's true. Now, this is what we are saying all the time. That the real seichel, the real truth is not what you encounter, but who's showing it to you.
you said Ora Sechel, what would the connotation be?
It's sechel in isolation from the nefesh. Proven sechel. That's not oira sechel. The whole world is after that, and we are away from that. Yes, sechel, but with oir, not devoid of oir. Because the sechel exists only in the presence of a nefesh, of a living nefesh. The Frierdiker Rebbe, I mentioned to you many times, when he came out of Russia, and he traveled the entire Jewish world. He was in Poland, Kriyas Lili, then he was in Lita, he was in Lita, in Lithuania. And in all the yeshivas over there, they had big lomdim, and the Rebbe writes, the lomdus is phenomenal. But the sforis that they present are toite sforis. Lifeless.
Alter Rebbe?
The Frierdiker Rebbe.
Oh, Friedrich.
What does that mean?
It means there is no light, no air on nefesh. It's not based on nefesh. It's based on Metzias. It's like I'm saying, 1 and 1 is 2 ones. It's very clearly proven. Can you make it more clear than that? Imagine you learn a piece of Gemara and you have it at that level of clarity. It's possible. But you don't have the Oina Gemara. You don't have Gemara. So Toitus Foris.
Can you give us an example?
The example, I don't know, the time is a little bit, I always explain. Lo signoiv. Who are you offending with gneva? This is mine. And you come and you steal it from me. What did you violate? Please think. Did you violate my claim that this is mine? Or did you violate Hashem's declaration that it's mine? You follow what I'm saying? Big deal. And then we have a whole swathe, all kind of arguments. No, he claimed it. Yes, you can argue it out, but there's no chayas. There's no meaning to the entire argument. This is what we say all the time. That a human being has a home. So I have always the difficult, not anymore, I think. That the lion also, this is fine. The lion also claims a turf. You know, the lion has his turf, has his circle, a certain area, where no animal is allowed to violate, to enter. And if they enter, then let's say they enter without exit. So our smart idiots say this is the same thing what the human being is doing. The human being has evolved from the lion, and we got the idea from the lion. The lion also has the same thing. All right? And we say this is so terribly blind and so terribly lifeless. It's the furthest thing from the truth. A human being owns his property because this is God's property. And God has rendered the world to the human being. And if you violate that, you're violating God's principles. You're saying the world is the creation of a Big Bang. There's no creator. That's what you say. That's why the poet says, "Onoich Hashem Elokecha, lo yisignov." It's in one and the same breath. Right there, cut out in the luchas. That's an example of it.
Well, I mean, people like Litvish, like they're doing Torah and mitzvahs, and they're happy, and they learn a lot. They're sometimes very advanced Torah-wise, and like they're completely dead. Like, I mean, is that a?
David, I'm not really interested to give them any kind of titles, subtitles. Totally.
Is that an insult to the Litvish, or that they need to learn Chassidus? Or?
It's not an insult to anyone. It's just telling you you have this option or this option. Choose it for yourself. The idea is not to insult anyone. I think we have a minute tonight.
All right. No searching. In the crown.
Da 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 do. Okay.
Dominant socks or